to her family. Uh, Young men want status, and they want status because they want women. Uh, and once you start thinking about it that way, it all starts kind of falling into place. So women, everyone knows now, right, that colleges don't generate good return on investments. That this is something that's been known. Women still largely go to colleges. Men do not. Well, men do largely go to colleges, but the ratio is getting kind of insane. We're over basically 2/3 women at this stage for a lot of colleges, and it's only going in one direction. And the problem is okay, Mr. Boomer, the same boomers that tell me that you need to pull your bootstraps up and grind at Panda Express. Do they think that their daughters who are getting degrees in communication and pre-nursing are worthy mates for these guys who are aspiring Pandas Express junior managers? Like in their mind, does that make sense to them? It doesn't make sense to people on the ground. Nobody's, if you're in college studying anything, like any hypothetical, because that's what college is good at. College is great at making you feel like you're on the cusp of this great professional career. If you're in engineering, you're going to be this great engineer. If you're a scientist, you're going to be this great scientist. If you're like, even if you're one of these bullshit majors like communications, like you're going to be a manager, you're going to be somebody who makes a difference in industry, who's able to take all these new ideas and put them into practice at the highest level. That's what it does, and it gives you, if not the reality of status, it gives you the impression of status. I guess the impression of status is the reality of status, but that's what it gives you, and that's what it gives to women. Certainly, every they do this joke every now and again, where they go to college campuses and they ask the girls there. This is actually the worst time you could ever ask girls. Is like, how much does a future husband need to make in order to be your husband? And she's like, well, he needs to be a doctor and he needs to earn like $300,000 a year. This girl is like this slightly overweight girl is like a communication major. She's like linguistics major. I want a $300,000 doctor, right? Because that the education is selling you that dream. The education that you get from these colleges, they're making you go into debt. You're paying them like $50,000 over the course of the college in debt, so you can believe briefly that you're on course for like being part of the ruling class. The problem is that when all of your women believe that they're three steps away from being the wife of a doctor, none of these women are going to date men whose ambition is to be the junior manager to Panda Express, even if he's making three times the amount that they are. I did a short article on my Substack about like what men miss, what Zoomer men in particular miss about dating. It's not really that women don't necessarily need money, but women need a plan for a beautiful life. You have to, as a man, have a plan for a life that's going to be high status and beautiful. That's what they're looking for. And like, there's no way you can tell the story. Like, this is the story about the next manager of Panda Express and his beautiful wife. Like, like, come away with me, and I'll make you Miss Junior Manager at Panda Express. Like that's the story of us. You're going to be Miss Panda Express, and all your friends are going to be so jealous that you married the manager of a Panda Express. Like that doesn't sound like anything a young woman would want to participate in. I mean, young women are more attracted to drug dealers, right? Like my friend Isaac Simpson says this all the time. Like, you want to get a girl, be a drug dealer. That's a great like talk about, I can't remember who was the last name of Luigi Mandaloni. I'll just say Mandaloni because I can't remember his last name. The guy who shot the United Healthcare system. He has all these leftist women who are just like swooning over him. Like, there's multiple like girl porn sites dedicated to this guy who's basically just took psychedelics, drove himself temporarily insane, and murdered someone in cold blood without knowing anything about the guy's life or his complicity in actions that he associates with leading to bad healthcare outcomes in the United States. And as someone who had to, wait 8 hours to get triage at Canadian healthcare, I'm not really exactly sure that the American way is actually killing more people at this stage, because everywhere is packed. It's impossible to get service here. But that's notwithstanding. The point is that Luigi Mandeloni is high status in the minds of these women. He's high status because he's got this story. Like, that act has created a story about him. Every cocaine dealer, and I don't know if anyone ever, maybe I'm like, I'm in this weird position. I think this is something that really only, I don't want to be like an idiotic Californian and be presumptive here, but I was like a really nerdy math guy. And I still knew a bunch of guys who, sold drugs and psychedelics and even harder stuff, all throughout college and in my professional life. Or I guess the beginning of my professional life, not so much when I got a little higher, but but if you've hung around, in the Bay, I'm sure everyone in the Bay Area who does nerdy stuff is like me. But I think this might be a little bit more unusual if you come from I don't know, if you're from Utah, right? Because I think then there's more of a segregation of drug use and math. But every single drug dealer had a great story about himself. Everyone wanted to come to their parties. They always had a lot of extra cash on the weekend. They always had a plan. Even if they were going absolutely nowhere, even if they were getting high on their own supply. I mean, there are some drug dealers that are very disciplined, but half of them are getting high on their own supply. They're obviously going down in flames, but they're able to tell this beautiful story about girl, after I blow this crummy little town, I'm gonna buy some land and do farming, and then we're gonna go into business for ourselves, and we're gonna dominate. We're gonna open up all of these businesses, and I'm gonna rule the world. I'm gonna rule this entire area of California one day. And girls just go nuts for that, because this is a great story about and he has the cash on the barrel to prove it. And telling a good story about yourself is one of the key things to attract women. There's no good story about Panda Express, and if you're doing truck driving in Saskatchewan or Manitoba or Newfoundland or northern Newfoundland or Newfoundland, you're not going to be meeting many girls. You're not going to be seeing lots of interesting opportunities. You're going to have your nose to your grindstone, doing 80 hours of work a week to compete with the people they're bringing over on H-1B visas. Who is going to take this deal? And I mean, it's just, I'm beating a dead horse. I know it's a dead horse. I'm just beating it because it's here, right? Everyone knows that this is blather, right? Everyone knows that this is a mode that boomers like speaking in, because it allows them to talk and pontificate and bloviate about how they're on top of the world. And but I can't remember who pointed this out, but it was sort of the best thought experiment, right, about this whole thing. Right now, Rufo is in the process of half of these other guys like Joel Berry and the evangelical wife, pardon me, I almost muted myself there, the evangelical wife guy brigade, and all of these guys, they're all going online, they're all lecturing the Zoomer men. The Zoomer men just got out of college. I guess got a programming job, and I can't find a job after 4 years of honors computer science. Or I just got out of high school. I got a high SAT score and near 4.0. I'm a really bright guy. And you have Rufo going, all right, bucko, well, now you need to buckle down and go start working at Subway sandwiches for minimum wage. And you got to grind out 80 hours a week and climb to the top. You gotta go off to Wisconsin and drive big rig trucks, far away from any other young people or opportunities or intellectual life. You just gotta stay in your car for 12 hours a day driving loads back and forth, which is I think that would be good for some people, right? Um, this is a person who's spent the last 4 years presumably excelling at the academics that we put in front of them and told them to learn. And now you're telling them to be a blue collar worker. It would be one thing. It would be one thing if there was sort of like an honorable blue collar culture. Do you remember back in the day? Remember back in the I don't remember the 80s. The 80s were, me being a toddler. But I am aware of the shadow of the 80s, and I'm aware that in the 80s there was this image of like the heroic blue collar worker, like the blue collar worker, like Bruce Springsteen and Billy Joel, like they were constantly pretend. I don't know. I think Bruce Springsteen actually might have been like, had a blue collar background. I'm pretty sure Billy Joel did not. But Billy Joel's constantly thinking about like Allentown, what they did to us in Allentown. He's talking about like uptown girl. I'm gonna date an uptown girl. I'm a downtown guy. I'm like a car mechanic, right? And all these like these greaser personalities were nonetheless like ruggedly masculine people. Um, when is the last time media has celebrated blue collar work, specifically masculine blue collar work, in that way? Can you think of anything in the last 20 years that would have celebrated that or treated it as all high status? I can't. We're a long way from Uptown Girl. We're a long way from Allentown. We're a long way from Born in the USA and Bruce Springsteen. And the country equivalents. I don't even know what the country equivalents were in the 80s, but I do know there was a blue collar image there. There's not. I mean, I guess there is still a country scene, right? There still is a country scene that talks about this stuff a little bit, but that stuff is not. The most I can think of is like Lana Del Rey marrying the Bayou tour guide who's like the Trump supporter, total blue collar Chad. Like I can think of that's an example, but that's rare. When have you seen ordinary white guys lauded for being blue collar and salt of the earth? That never happens in our culture. So these things are like low status, low pay, completely discard your otherwise aspirations to participate in power or idea spaces. And you're going to go away from all of that. And then presumably you'll attract a wife just by the pure dollars that you earn, which, if the last 10 years were any experience to what we're going to expect when we hit 2034 and our Social Security falls apart, is going to be heavily inflated away unless it's immediately invested in compounding interest. This is not good faith advice. And the reason why, there was a great thought experiment someone put across. I can't remember who, but it's just a simple example. Okay, Joel Berry. Okay, evangelical wife guys. Okay, Christopher Rufo and the rest of the Daily Wire crew. Um, your daughter just graduated from high school, valedictorian, 1,400 on her SATs, top 90%. And she gets through college, blows away an engineering career, great coder, praised by all of her teachers, multiple scholarships, member of Tau Beta Pi, an engineering honor society. She comes to you the next day. Daddy, what should I do? Well, bucko, guess what? You got to go out to Wisconsin and drive a truck for 12 hours a day. you got to aspire to be the junior manager of Panda Express. Did they ever like just even thinking about them saying that young women, what are your career prospects? Your career prospects are fast food and trucking. And even if the girl got a job I think it's a little easier for conservatives, right? Because oftentimes what's more likely for these women is they get jobs. Well, here's another thing too, and this is something that everyone immediately recognizes, is that the lazy girl job. There's a whole set of jobs out